Nintendo Wii was a console that was primarily designed by Shigeru Miyamoto and Genyo Takeda and released in 2006. The Wii was developed after the Nintendo GameCube and Nintendo DS, and ironically enough, was targeted towards an interesting audience: people who don't play video games. The Wii was an extremely innovative console, and its design revolutionized home entertainment and greatly changed the way that video games were looked at and played by not only regular gamers, but casual ones as well. Miyamoto and Takeda were both the earliest video game designers in the Nintendo company and created many of the original arcade games, such as Donkey Kong, Punch-Out!, and even the character Mario himself. They both saw the trend of console companies like Sony and Microsoft opting for more powerful systems with better GPUs, CPUs, and more complicated controllers, but they wanted to try something else. Something that everyone could use: a simple console with a simple controller and a simple design. One of the most notable aesthetics that characterize the Wii is its sharp, minimalist design. The appearance is an intentionally slim tower on an angled stand with sharp edges and lines. The colors and the layout of the system were selected to give it a bright and innovative look. The console and native Wii software opted for a very clean and non-intimidating color palette, including white, gray, and light blue, making it seem very welcoming and emphasizing the family-friendly feel. In fact, the entire Wii's design was intentionally selected to blend in and appeal more to a casual audience, since that's what Nintendo found drove the success of the DS. Even the name and the logo is meant to emphasize casual group play, with the two-letter I's indicating two people playing with each other. Some users also felt that the GameCube and Nintendo 64, the Wii's predecessors, were designed to look too much like toys and were too clunky in size. In an interview, Junji Takamoto, a designer of the Wii, described how the design was selected carefully to blend in with other AV equipment that many people already had around their TVs. They consciously recognized that many people had a lot of equipment surrounding their TVs at this time, and they didn't want to add to the clutter. By designing it to be a mix between a toy and AV equipment, it not only made the console look much more modern and sleek, but also appealed to parents and casual gamers who didn't want their console or their child's console to be an eyesore in front of their TVs. As for the actual operating system of the console, the user interface of the startup menu was centered around the idea of making games and applications look like they were televisions in a store window. Each channel, as they called it, was the same size, and they were each a different app. This was a choice that some didn't understand, because they were confused why something like the weather forecast channel was the same size as the game or disc that was currently in the system. However, they intentionally gave each channel equal weight, regardless of what app it was, to emphasize the fun for everyone mentality, giving all apps on the console the same accessibility. This layout and the soft aesthetics of all the buttons and channels on the Wii's overall UI contributed to the accessibility and usability of the console as a whole. In a broader sense, I feel that the Japanese identity and Japanese cultural values helped to contribute to the Wii's success in changing the norm. I feel that the value of collaboration and community, a strong value in Japan, is reflected directly in the design language of the Wii, especially the collaborative play element. Every aspect of the Wii's aesthetic and technological design is meant to enhance the inclusivity and involvement in group play, which I feel hasn't been prioritized by any other console as well as the Wii did. I feel that this collaborative play concept was somewhat of a culture shock to those in America, as we tend to be very individualistic, so I think the Wii's concept being centered around that and being so different in the market full of individualistic consoles helped it stand out and succeed in the West. On top of this, inclusivity and usability of design was also a big factor that I feel reflects important Japanese values, as we learned from this class about the ideas of Mingei and brands like Muji. All of these features of the Wii are catered to the user experience and ease of use, shown through its motion controls, easy to navigate UI, backwards play, and diversity of genres in apps and games. The final value that I feel the Wii exemplifies is innovation, another value in Japanese culture that contributed to the success of the Wii. This was especially shown in the attempt to make the Wii as thin and aesthetically pleasing as possible with the given technology, as well as ideating an entirely different kind of controller that had never been seen or tried. Their urge to break the norms of consoles in the entire category is what set the Wii apart and made it ahead of its time, and it's evident that their intentions and efforts were all successful. In a more specific sense, the Wii can be seen as a response to the designer's identity because of the ideation behind each of the games and features. Shigeru Miyamoto, the game director and designer of Nintendo that I talked about before, as well as other employees, were influenced by many of the things in their own lives when developing new games. For example, Miyamoto started a new workout regimen, and he was inspired to make a game similar to it, which turned into Wii Fit, one of the most popular games and features of the Wii. Miyamoto also showed great emphasis on innovation and trying new things to change video gaming as a whole. This reflected greatly within their ideation and trying to break boundaries that have never been broken before. Considering Miyamoto was the game designer behind the original Donkey Kong and Mario games, most of the games and consoles reflected his values and ideas after this. He was instrumental in not only the game design, but even down to the finest details of the arcade cabinets themselves. His ideologies and values have become synonymous with Nintendo's, in my opinion, and since the Wii directly reflects Nintendo values, they also reflect Miyamoto himself. Firstly, one of the most important changes in technology that made this console possible was the infrared motion tracking technology that they used within the Wiimote. This motion tracking technology allowed for an entirely new way of playing games. Several ideas and factors had come together when they were making this Wiimote. They wanted to break the rules of controllers, and even considered things like using a controller attached to their head or using no remote at all. Then they finally came to the pointer concept. After some time in development, they realized they also wanted to make it shaped like a rod, so it could be easily controlled with one hand rather than the traditional two-handed controller. On top of this, there was also the development of new sensors that were able to make 200 signal exchanges in 1 second, which they were actually taking a risk on. This tech was new, so to implement it within their controllers was risky, but this showed their urge for innovation. This was all the idea behind the concept of the motion controller, which has led to so many different hit motion-controlled and active games like Wii Sports, Wii Fit, and so many others. These technological developments introduced a new way of play and changed how we view what is possible for video games, and increased the interactive and physical activity of video games, which was never seen executed very well. With the ability to handle 4 players motion tracking at once, they also encouraged group games and fun for the entire family, once again appealing to the casual or non-gamer. Motion control was more than just a gimmick to Nintendo, and it definitely showed when companies like Microsoft and Sony both followed suit with their own updated motion control hardware. And in my opinion, I feel that this was an instrumental step to so many of the virtual reality games and developments within consoles that are so common now. There were also technological advances like the revolutionary backwards play feature that was included within the Wii, where users were able to play discs from old consoles, as well as the new, to encourage those that had purchased the GameCube or game discs from that console to upgrade to a Wii. This also increased the Wii's usability, and other companies also followed suit as a result to increase interest in their new consoles and to keep their usability on par with Wii's. This set the Wii apart because consumers were able to find much more value in the console, which was new to customers in this category who often felt like video game companies were ripping them off or trying to force them to buy a new console. Wii was trying to revolutionize and make the Wii an all-in-one platform and once again change the way that people looked at consoles or video game companies. Finally, general updates to CPU and graphic components also allowed for better visual graphics as a result of the console being able to handle player and environment models with more polygons, so the images look sharper than ever possible with something like the DS or GameCube. Through its design, the Wii was successfully able to change the video game and console industry. It was also able to redefine who was considered a gamer, as it made itself so accessible to all demographics. Its design impact and innovation is something that can still be felt within the industry today and will not be forgotten.